Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I shall do my best to speak my English as clearly and slowly as possible for our many foreign friends and competitors. For those who don't know me, my name is Barney Townsend. You have heard plenty of communications from me, and I'm probably familiar to you, but if you have not seen my face before, hello. We also have introductions here, our committee members, and I've got so many people in the room, I can't see all of them. Do we have co-director Andy Phillips? Yes, we do. There. Do we have three other committee members? Andy Shaw? No. And two who are pilots, Daniel Jones, I think I saw here, yeah. And who is in the air, live, listening in, and Rick Womersley. Yeah. Thanks, guys. So thank you to them for all of their hard work getting to this point. Do we have our chief marshals here, Simon and Lynn?
Yeah, I'm here.
Not sure. Maybe not. I think they were planning to join us, but you will meet them.
They said they were somebody. They're very quiet, but they were there.
They were there. Okay, brilliant. Welcome, and thank you to them. And I think we probably have some more members of the Marshall team in the room as well. So welcome to them.
Thank you.
We also have, I think, representatives of our two sponsors. And can you see? Muted everybody for now. You can unmute yourself if you want to speak. Do we have, I think I saw Carlos here a moment ago. There's Carlos. Welcome, Carlos.
Hi.
Hello.
Good night.
Nice to see
Hello.
you. And
Thank
do
you.
we have Matteo and Remo from Vitorazzi? Maybe not yet, but I need to start by thanking very sincerely our sponsors, Liberty Paramotors and Vitorazzi Motors. Their support is very valuable. Sorry, I am keeping people muted for that noise. We could not do this without you. And for all the pilots, it's very simple. Their donations and support have meant the difference of about £50 on each of your entry fees. If we put it in simple terms, divided by the amount that you pay. We need to break even and run our competitions on a balanced budget, and their support and generosity enables us to do that and to make it cheaper and easier for you to attend. So please thank them sincerely when you see them at the championships. Please recognise them through your social media posts and the publicity that you put out through the championship, and share your gratitude as widely as possible, because we couldn't do it without them. So the general structure of today, I don't want to keep you all night. But I recognise that there are many pilots in the room who have not flown in this format for endurance championships before. And I firstly welcome all of you. We are delighted to see so many new pilots flying in this format. And we are delighted to see so many foreign pilots entering the championship this year. We have pilots from, at last count, let me pull it up. I assume you can see my screen okay?
Yep.
I'm sharing a screen. Good. We have 15 German pilots, 11 French pilots. We had 3, I believe. Sadly, we now have only 2 pilots from Belgium because Toon, are you here with us, Toon? Hello,
Yes,
Toon.
yes.
Unfortunately, Toon had a little problem with his ankle. And so we are sorry not to see him flying this time, but we hope to see him in August with full recovery. So we wish you well, Toon, for your recovery. We have Ireland. I think I saw Jason in the room. We have the Netherlands. There you are. Hello, Niels. And Carlos representing Spain for the moment. So a very nice international spread of pilots for the championship. We also have the largest trike class that we have ever had. So that is 16, 18, 19 trike pilots at the present count. That is very significant and a really amazing improvement. So let's see some hot competition in trike class this year. Okay, what I'm going to do is talk through a little bit about general structure of the championship, some safety issues and some sort of general organization points. I will give you an overview of the map area and what you will be working with in preparation for the, I will release the turn points digitally later this week so that you can prepare for it, but of course not the precision task routes. And I will answer questions. Some have been sent to me already, but talk a little bit about the scoring systems and make sure that you understand more specifically than the precise formulae, the way that the tasks interact with each other. And the most important thing is that you understand how the endurance format works in terms of different tasks being overlaid and combined when you go flying. I will not waste too much time on this. You know where we are. This is from an earlier presentation, but this is the runway of the airfield that we are flying from. This runway will be your start point for the timing on most of your start line, rather, for the timing on most of your tasks. In one direction, we will have a corridor because the far end of this field that you can see at the back right of this photograph is also being shared by another championship in human-powered aircraft. So they are borrowing most of that end of the runway, flying out of one of these hangars in the back corner. And we will have a corridor that comes over this end of the runway, and we will use it for either an out or an in corridor with an alternate route in the opposite direction. And I will show you them in more detail on a map. But it is a very big space. You will have on your map area, this is an overview of the Google Earth file. And this is an example from 2023. The number of turn points is 110. And the number of hidden routes, of precision navigation routes is 6. This is an output from our scoring software where you can see some of the gates that we used. I will flick now to different map. Now this, don't get too excited, everyone, because these are not the precision routes for this year. This is the map from 2023. It will not be significantly different in terms of turn points and structure. you have an Ordnance Survey map. The map is called Ordnance Survey Land Ranger, and it is sold as a 1 to 50,000 scale map. And we have scaled it so that the one that we print and give to you will be 1 to 66,666, which means 1.5 centimeters per kilometer. They are very good maps. They have a lot of detail. That's starting to pixelate now, but these blue squares are 1 kilometer, so they will be 1.5 centimeters. On that map, you have 6 precision task routes. Each of them will be labeled the type of task. I will actually have the number of the task from the task catalogue, so you are sure. The overall distance. So we have snake, which is precision navigation 2.1. Declared speed, which is task 2.2 in the catalogue. And constant speed, which is task 2.3 in the catalogue. You also have task 2.4, which is the turn point hunt navigation. Turn points are marked on here in green, as you see them on this map. And those that are within this dotted line are within 20 kilometers of the airfield, and they are worth 10 points each. Those with the double ring are with it between 20 and 40 kilometers of the airfield. They are worth 20 points each. And those outside of the 40 kilometer with triple rings around them are worth 30 points each. The precise shape and location of those routes will of course change, and most of the turn points have been changed from last year as well. Almost all of them, I think. Or was it absolutely all of them, Andy? I can't remember.
No, yeah. Oh, it was just over half, but
yeah.
For the worlds, all of them will change.
Okay. The other points to mention on these are that they are very clearly marked with an entry point, a direction, and a finish point. The finish point has a big red bar that says "Do not enter here." You are all top pilots, and I should not see anybody doing tasks in the wrong direction. Maps that I give you, that when they are printed, I have made the task routes and the turn points bold and coloured for the purposes of showing you on this demonstration. But when I give you the printouts, they will have much finer lines. So the printed maps will have very fine line art so that you can use your own system of marking, highlighting, colour, whatever you like, to mark them out. And they have at the turn points, which the circles are scaled correctly to the 250 meter radius of the turn point. And you can see from whatever the feature is clearly in the center of that ring, that is the feature that you are looking for. But I deliberately break the line so that the line does not block the feature that you are looking for. The turn points also will be a single ring without the highlighting color, so that you can use whatever system you prefer to use to color them for yourself. That is the breakdown of the map pages on A3 paper. So you will be given 4 printed A3 sheets like that. They have some about 2 or 3 centimeters overlap. You can join them, use your colors, markings to mark turn points, and then put your plastic or whatever you prefer to do over them. I have had lots of questions about how to fly with 4A3 of map. The solution is, well, there are many solutions, and pilots who have flown this format before are quite well experienced in origami. And I suggest you talk to each other, you share ideas, and you look at ways of fixing the sides of the map with a fold in the middle that you can secure one way or the other. Realistically, most flights you will not be planning to use all 4 sheets, so you can adjust accordingly. So I have no more specific advice on the best way to fold and prepare your maps to fit on your map decks, but I encourage all pilots to share their ideas. Those who are new to British Championships, since I have been directing, my philosophy is very much about sharing. Yes, you are competing against each other, but good sportsmanship dictates that we share as much as we can, and I like to see top pilots sharing as much as they can without completely ruining their strategy, sharing and passing on their skills to less experienced pilots. And we will encourage that as much as possible, and we will have sessions in the main marquee when we have downtime or windy time, when we share ideas about what equipment people fly, how they prepare different tasks. We will run a program of seminars that is specifically designed to help pilots who are newer to this format of competition. So if this all looks like quite a new way of flying, please don't worry too much. We will not just send you out and say, go figure. We will help you as much as possible to understand it all the way through. So that is the main map area. This will change a little bit. For example, I can tell you that this no-fly zone here is smaller this year. It is more like this because we have they have not got the event they had last year, so there may be some more turn points further out. We have some more space. We have a few other aerial issues to be aware of. This is the Civil Aviation Authority map. We have no ceiling height. Our airfield, I probably should have said from the beginning. This is our airfield. This is the runway. Our camping site and takeoff deck are this field here. It might look small on this map, but it is 800 meters long, that field there. It's still a very big field, and I will give you a different view of that in a moment. In general aviation terms, though, a NOTAM has been issued for the event, which describes flying within 50 kilometers or so of the airfield, and the amount of pilots and the way we will be flying, and the fact that nobody will be using radio, and the fact that you will be trackable live through the trackers that we are publishing the tracks through our website, so that pilots in the area who are planning to make flights can log on to our website and they can see the spread of pilots if they're in the air and roughly where they are. There is no upper limit ceiling height in most of this map, apart from just at the western end here. You have a ceiling height of 3,500 feet. Other than that, we have a few no-fly zones. This is a gliding club. The ones on the coast, this one is a nature reserve. This one from last year was that we put as an advisory, but on the new map I give you, this will actually be a full no-fly zone around here, which is also a nature reserve, quite close to the airfield. We need to be careful of it.
Barney,
Down
could I really quickly just come in on that no upper limit? I do believe there is an airspace upper limit of flight level 65 that's not on the quarter mil air map.
Correct. I apologise. Thank you for that, Rick. Yes, upper limit 6.5. So worth noting, if we are thermaling in certain conditions, I think only relevant but for general purposes, the limit is the legal limit, which is 6,500 feet for all purposes. Thank you, Rick. That is another area of, I can't remember off the top of my head what that one specifically is, but this one is a military firing range. I suggest that you do not fly through that. This one is an airport, and this is the holding pattern for the airport. There we have a few turn points down that way. Let me turn there are some down near there. There are none inside that. It is not illegal to go across it, but just to be aware that there may be other aircraft circling in a holding pattern around here. Where I have put dotted lines here, these are not no-fly zones. There is no penalty for flying through them, but they are advisory. That there are other activities like small farm airstrips. They are usually marked from being marked on the map, on the civil aviation map. So they're there as advisory for you to be aware of potentially other air users. And this line from the civil aviation map of the height limit of 3,500 feet, I have transposed to the map that you will be given, and this line will be on it, so you have the reference. There should be no reason to fly over the coast. And whilst I'm not putting a specific no-fly zone all over the coast, there are no turn points within about half a kilometre of the coastline, and that is for a specific reason. One, the coastlines are busy. It's starting to be summer. There are lots of beaches. Two, one of the other users of the airfield is a helicopter company called Polar Helicopters, who do tourism flights, and we worked with them very well last year. We know what they're doing. We keep in close touch. They have a different takeoff circuit, and we avoided each other clearly. But the majority of their business is taking pilots or taking tourists from here out to the coastline and then flying around the beaches and showing them the coast. So I have told them that our pilots will not have any reason to be within a few hundred meters of the coastline. Please bear that in mind. Closer to the airfield, I will flip now actually to Google Earth. This is the map. This is the main runway. Our field is this one. It is mostly we will use the top end of the field for our deck, and that is 425 meters long by, from where we will open it, about 242 meters wide. It's very big. There's plenty of space. The access points for the championship will be, we're still confirming exactly, and I will publish, but we have access through this gate at the top here. In there. Or we have access through, the best one is through this gate at the bottom, up Spitfire Way. And our scoring cabin will be here. So our scoring office is here. Registration will come in through this gate, past us, and then up the field here. This is all a public area, and we will have the main marquee. The map here is actually the map for the World Championships. We will have main marquee and team marquees, but our main marquee will be somewhere in the middle here. And your camping area is this white space behind it. We will set up pathways through it and maps for where to camp. We will have a system which I will give you more details in the first briefing on site on Tuesday evening about when you have already seen the layout of the site, but pilots going onto the deck will go through a marshal tent here. So this will be fenced and they will go through the tent. Marshals will sign you in and out to the deck each time, so they know which pilots are going flying. And then generally it will be free takeoff within this area. I have marked out the orange on here because this shows you the takeoff or the usually the outbound route for most tasks. You will take off, the prevailing wind is from the southwest. So you will take off from here, follow the orange corridor marked by this building. I could extend that here. This building is very clear and obvious. It's a tall, stripy control tower. So long as you keep that building to your right when you're flying southwards, you will be in the corridor. And the reason for this is that the human-powered aircraft will be flying at this end of the runway. So I would like you to climb as hard as you can and aim to be at 500 feet minimum before you are crossing the runway in order to possibly, to have plenty of height clearance in case you have an engine problem and you need to land. The human-powered aircraft are very large, 30-meter wingspans. They are very slow. They do not have much maneuverability whatsoever, but they also fly very low. They are unlikely to be higher than about 40 or 50 feet off the ground. So and they only tend to fly one at a time. I think there are 4 aircraft in total coming to this event. So there should be no problem at all avoiding them. But if there is one of them flying this way down the runway and you are flying this way and you have an engine problem, please immediately circle back and land as far away from them as you possibly can within your glide distance. because they do not have much control at all. They are quite worried about us, but I think most of that is because they do not fly paramotors and they do not understand quite how versatile and maneuverable we are in terms of avoiding them if we need to. The other safety things you need to know about the airfield are the polar helicopters operate out of this hangar here, and they use this apron to take off from. And if they're doing training flights, they sometimes operate up and down where you can see this strip here. When they are then going off on tourism flights, they will exit out in this direction to the north, away from us. They are being very understanding. Normally their approach and exit is straight across the field that we are using, so we are encroaching upon their business. So we are being as nice to them as possible. If we have a windy day and anybody is not flying and wants to go on a tourism flight, please go along and spend your money with polar helicopters. It's not very expensive, and you can see Kent in a different way. Or at least say hello and thank them if you come across members of their team. The other one is Helix in this building here, which is another, they are helicopter sales. They're a dealer for, I forget which helicopter brand now, but they tend to operate a little bit, well, a lot less regularly, but sometimes with very little notice, they will just come out and take off in the middle of the day, and they understand that they will fly westwards away from this corridor as well. So long as you are aware that there may be helicopters here and there may be helicopters here. That is the reason for these two no-fly zones either side of our championship field. And the start and finish timing lines will be the two blue lines. This one, which will be defined by the road, actually not the runway itself, because it's a very wide runway and harder to define. But that will be this road here. Crossing that will start, the middle line of that will start your timing counter with regards to the maximum airtime hours that we set for your time flying the championship. And on the return, usually it will be across this line here, which is also clearly defined by a very visible road, this one here. So clear visual markers that we will use to define your start and finish times. And I will give you printouts of this map in this higher scale as well when you arrive. If the wind is in the opposite direction, northerly, we will reverse the orientation on any one session of flying, and you will take off northbound and use this gate as your start gate and return from the south through this one. If we send pilots off flying in the reverse orientation or whichever orientation, and whilst pilots are out on a flying session and the wind changes 180 degrees, it doesn't matter. You still use the same orientation and rotation that we have briefed before that flight session, for obvious reasons. Okay. So that's the maps. That is a closer up photo of the deck. As you can see, it is big. It has been mown last week, which I think the grass in this photo was mown 2 weeks earlier. And we also have a very kind offer from Daniel Bryce, who I believe is in this room. Are you with us, Dan? I think I saw him earlier. Who has kindly offered to bring his ride-on mower and do another skim on the weekend, so we have a much shorter set of grass around our particular takeoff deck. So buy Dan a beer for that.
I was muted, Barney. Yes, I'm here, and yeah, I'll get onto that on Sunday.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Much appreciated. A few points to update that we have updated from last year based on feedback. We have increased the amount of the infrastructure that we have available. In terms of toilets, we were just a bit short because we were taken surprised by the numbers of pilots. We have included motorhome toilets, so anyone who is coming in a motorhome, please empty those toilets into the right place. Last year, sadly, we missed out on actually having an economy task because the weather changed and we didn't manage to fit it in. This year, that will be first and foremost priority on day one, and I will show you in a moment my anticipated timetable for the event in terms of how the tasks work. And I hope to have at least 2 economy tasks that will balance out the point value to, I hope, about 1/3. We are giving you loggers, Flymaster 360s, rented from Fly Event. We have used them for the last few years. Generally, they are quite good and in good condition, but sometimes there is a problem, and it's very sad and it's heartbreaking as a director to have to say to a pilot, I'm sorry, I cannot give you a score because there is a problem with the logger. So when you arrive, when you go through registration, we will give you your logger. And we will also turn on the live tracking system on the website, which you can follow on your phone. We request that you personally go and take your logger and go on a nice walk around the field. Or if you have time and you're arriving in time for training flying on Monday, take it flying. And you can check and satisfy yourself that there is a track, and we will download tracks at the end of the day and share them. That way we can identify if there are problems with loggers. Please bring a backup logger. It does not have to be a live tracker or an expensive one. It can be a standard, basic Garmin, whatever. But it needs to, if it has a screen that enables you to navigate from it, that will need to be sealed in a bag by the marshals when you go through the gate onto the deck. What we cannot accept is tracks from mobile phones, because if you are taking a mobile phone onto the deck, the marshals need to see you switch it off before you put it into the bag. So you have it for emergency, but a mobile phone with the problems of linking into Bluetooth headsets and whatever else. The same applies to potentially some advanced GPS that may also have Bluetooth connectivity and so on, in which case we would not accept it. If you have any doubts at all, come to me and ask if it is acceptable, and we will make a decision. I think that's fairly clear. We will also give each of you your own charger cable. Last year we had some problems because 70 trackers were given to us with about 30 charging cables, and we had them on a big table, and pilots would either pull somebody else's logger out to plug theirs in, or they would walk off with the wrong tracker altogether. This time, when you register, you will each be given your own charging cable for the tracker, and it is your responsibility to keep it charged. We would like the charging cables back at the end of the week, please, or you will not get one final score until we have them back. Likewise with the trackers. The trackers themselves, I will talk through them and their operation when you have them in your hands on the first briefing on the evening. They are very simple. You push 2 buttons to hold them on, one and then confirm, and you push the same buttons to turn them off again, or you plug them into the charger socket. But very simply, satisfy yourself before you take off that it is flashing the appropriate light at you to tell you that it is tracking. Okay. We will not be releasing tracks ourselves for all pilots each day. This is an administrative issue. We cannot put out, the nature of this format means that we cannot share all tracks as a mass, because we do not want pilots to see the tracks that other pilots have taken or have the record of those tracks for strategic reasons. And we do not have the capacity to send individually the track to each pilot times 70 at the end of each day. So if you want to check your own tracks, please carry your own backup logger and you can download your own track. What we will do is share, for anyone who wants to, I will share a KML file with all of the turn points on it, so you can check the tracks against Google Earth manually. Or if you would really like to and you want to get technical, I will share an instance. You can download a copy of our scoring software, and I will share a reduced version of the file we are working to in our scoring. And so you can import your own track to your own version of that and use its analysis features to check for yourself which turn points you think you have collected. So I hope that will ensure that you don't make mistakes, and also help more of you to understand how we are scoring, and possibly enable some of you to think about taking on competition directorship one day in future. Just floating that as an idea. I've mentioned the grass with a thank you there to Dan. The scoring formulae themselves, I will talk a little bit about in a moment. In basic principle, I wouldn't worry too much about the precision of the formulae. There are some aspects that have implications for how you fly a task and the risks that you take going into certain tasks. But crucially, the changes for this year, it has been very heavily scrutinized and adapted. In 2023, we tested a normalization system for the navigation tasks in order to try bringing it closer to FAI SEMA Classic format, and that did not work. Under this format, where not all pilots do all of the navigation tasks, that was not successful. So we have reverted to the system that we have used successfully 4 or 5 years before that, with some manipulation and tweaks to the formula themselves. And these have been scrutinized by myself, Andy, my co-director, Benny, our monitor, all of my committee as top pilots, a committee, the paramotor committee of the FAI SEMA, and the experts there. So it has undergone quite significant adjustment. We have also worked very hard to ensure that you will have as little delay as possible in scoring. So thank you to Dan Popescu, Jack Clark, and David Yeend. I can see Dan in the room. I don't know if we've got Jack or David. But they have all very kindly put their hands up. Oh yeah, there's Jack next to Blaze at the top there. Hi guys. And we're very grateful to them for doing that. It's not the sexiest job in the world, sitting in the scoring cabin, crunching numbers, not the most exciting, but we will hopefully their skills and their talent and their enthusiasm for it will enable us to give you scores on a almost daily basis. We have also done a lot of work in the spreadsheet end of the scoring to automate a lot more of the way they pick up scores from the analysis that is exported from the scoring software. So we hope to be a lot more efficient, and we're also a lot further ahead with our plans and our planning, and thank you to Andy particularly for all the work with me on the maps. I will talk not through the whole task catalogue. I will answer questions after the end of this session on specific aspects of the task catalogue, but what I will do now is talk briefly just to make sure the overview of the scoring formulae. Precision navigation over a known circuit. This is the snake. So this task here, you will enter it. The entry points and exit points are marked as a turn point. It's the same turn point radius, 250 meters, deliberately wider so that people do not waste a whole task by missing a start or a finish point. But the hidden gates within it are 250 meters wide, not 500 like the gates, like the turn points. So these are scored as a turn point by the software automating whichever is your closest point of your travel to the center of the feature. And then there will be hidden gates, typically 15 or so, for a point value under this format worth about 750 points. But that will vary depending on length. If it's a longer course, it might be worth more points. And you fly it as accurately as you can, and you get 50 points for each of the hidden gates that you cross successfully in the correct direction. And we have estimated speed, which will look more like this. Deck speed is declared speed. Apologies for foreign language speakers. I will try to use estimated speed because that is the terminology in the task catalogue, estimated or declared. So there will be 2 of each type in your 6. There will be 2 precision navigation snakes, there will be 2 declared speed tasks, and there will be 2 constant speed tasks. We will share to you a link for the declared speed tasks. It will be a Google form that you need to declare when you take off, before you take off in the morning, by submitting your Google form, what time of arrival after in seconds after you pass the start point, what time will you arrive at this point, at the next point, the next point, the next one, the next one. So in this task, there would be 6 declarations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they are cumulative from the start point. So if this leg takes you 100 seconds to fly, you declare 100 here. If this one also takes you 100 seconds to fly, you declare 200 for number 2. For this one, because that is the way our scoring software works, and it makes it easier and less administrative trouble for us. This task has two elements to the scoring. There are hidden navigation gates for spatial precision. What that means is if you have declared a particular time here and you have a big tailwind and you're arriving far too early, the only way to burn time without backtracking is to leave the track and then come back again. So the hidden gates are in there to ensure that you do not do that and you make good judgments of your speed along the full length of the track. So there will be some hidden gates which are the same width as those for the snake, 250 meters, and you don't know where they are. Each of them is worth 25 points, so it's half the value of those in the snake task. Sorry, I have some people trying to get in. The other side to it is the timing points. So you will make a declaration of the time, and for each of the points that you arrive, there will be an error. If you are 10 seconds late, that error is 10. If you are 5 seconds early, that error is 5. It's either side of the turn point is your error, and that error is summed up. The cumulative error on all of your timing points is summed up to make ET. We have put a multiplier of 2 on that. So if you arrive, each timing point is worth 100 points if you arrive spot on your timing to the second. But if you, for each second that you are outside of your declaration, you lose 2 points off that potential 100. This is quite punitive, and this is deliberately so, because we have seen and observed in recent years that the top pilots will all be arriving within 2, 3, 5 seconds of their declared speed or declared time at these events. So we have inserted this multiplier to space out the top pilots so that for the tasks there is a greater spread at the top end. It does mean you cannot afford to miss timing points, because if you get lost and you miss one, you lose 200 points. It also means that in theory you could lose twice the number of points that the overall task is worth and go into negative points. You will not, because there is a QT cannot be negative, so it will cancel out. You can't deduct points if you score too few, but you can score a 0 for that task if you miss half of the timing point gates. In fact, you will not score 0 on that task because you'd still get the 25 points per hidden gate. But that is the formula. So just be aware of that. The last one is the constant speed task. And this is effectively the same part as the estimated speed, but purely on the timing, not on the spatial precision. The reason being that there are hidden gates on it that we use for the timing. So you will see constant speed. And this is defined by individual legs. So your speed, your ground speed, is expected to be constant from turn point to turn point. We will have hidden gates at unknown points along the line. But for the sake of argument, let's say the hidden gate is exactly halfway along this line. If you arrive at this first turn point at 100 seconds, we expect you to arrive at the timing gate in the middle at 50 seconds from your start, and your error is calculated seconds either side from that. And the same formula applies with the sum of errors, and then it is multiplied by 2 and deducted from the maximum potential score. Your time, once you have gone over this turn point, your ground speed that we are using for the calculation resets. Essentially, this task is almost a series of individual speed tasks that are independent of each other, because your ground speed, of course, will be very different on an upwind leg to a downwind leg. So for this second leg, it's all set back to 0 from here. If you arrive here at 300 seconds, a hidden gate halfway, we would expect to see 150 seconds. The challenge, of course, on these tasks is where you have continuous curved legs which change direction. And the pilot decision on that is to look at the wind strength and direction and decide if you have the capacity within the speed range of your wing to maintain a constant ground speed throughout that curve. So there is a decision to be made for you as to whether or not to try that task. And then finally, we have the pure navigation, which is the turn points. As I've said, these are 10, 20, and 30. And your score is the number of 10 turn points. Each of them is worth 10 points, the number of 20 turn points. So we will simply count up how many of these you've scored, how many of these you've scored, and how many of these. Now, for the endurance format, this is 7 tasks. The precision navigation routes will be labelled tasks 1 to 6, and the turn point hunt will be task 7. And they will be open throughout the championship, from when we launch flying to when we close flying, during the sessions that we declare as open navigation sessions. Not open when we declare separately that we are running an economy task, or locally a precision landing task. But when we state that we are in open navigation mode, pilots can choose where they fly within the hours that we give them. So in a typical day of flying, let's use an example that we have all day. We are not planning to run an economy task, and we're giving you all day to fly open navigation. And the weather is flyable all day. We will typically on that day say you have maximum of 5 hours airtime. 5 hours means time outside of your start and finish gate. So you might choose to take off at 7 o'clock in the morning, cross your start gate, fly for 2.5 hours, come back, cross the finish gate at 2.5 hours. Your time has stopped there. So if you need to keep clear because it's very busy with lots of pilots trying to land at the same time, circle, take your time, be safe, come into land. You can then have lunch, have a sleep, go back out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and do 2.5 more hours flying. Or you could do 1 hour in the morning, come home for breakfast, have a bacon sandwich, go out, do another 2 hours flying. It's pilot decision within the space of the time that we give you. but we will announce 2 critical numbers. Three. Window open. Where do those balloons come from? Which will be on an open day 0700. Window close, which will be again on a full day, probably 1800, 6 p.m. because we want to bring pilots home and use the evenings for local precision tasks. And your maximum airtime within that time, which we will do no more than 5 hours in one day for safety reasons of fatigue and so on. On a day in which we are doing an economy task, which will most likely be in the afternoon, we might change those numbers. So we would say the morning is open navigation and the window is from 0700 to midday, 1200. And within that, you would have 3 hours airtime in order to retain some airtime for an economy task. These are example numbers, but they illustrate how we will define what the information that we give you and what you should be looking for and understanding before you take off. We also cannot, in a live daily context, give pilots a number for how many hours airtime they have spent. I have had pilots come to me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and say, can you tell me from my track whether I did 4 hours 20 minutes or 4 hours 45 minutes earlier today? Can I go up for half an hour more? Do I have time? The answer is, I could give you that information, but if I gave it to you, I would have to give it to the next pilot and the next pilot times 70 to be fair, and that there is no way that we have the time to be able to do that. So it is your responsibility to start your stopwatch when you go over the line and stop it when you come across the line again and make a judgment and make notes. If you get it wrong, there is a small penalty for late arrival over your time, and that is detailed in the task catalogue. So when you're out on an open navigation task, it is open. You can choose to just collect turn points if you want. Let's give myself a new layer for an example. So you might go turn point, 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 turn point. Okay, I've arrived here. I'm going to drop into the snake. So I can start this snake, follow around it, give myself a different color to make things a bit clearer. Following around the snake. When you are inside a precision task route, you are no longer allowed to collect turn points. So you cannot get to here and think, I will just nip out and collect that one. You can do that, but you will not score that turn point. So there is no point doing it. Once you start a precision navigation task, you have to finish it or leave altogether. So let's say you run to here and then you realize that you are pinned in wind and you won't get home. You can decide to fly straight home and you will still score all of the hidden gates that you have crossed on your way around that task, but not the ones at the end, obviously. You may also cross other task groups in transit. So on this route back, you have crossed a task group here, which would, in theory, be dangerous if other pilots are flying on a precise course. The reality is there are only 70 of you, and this is a very, very big map area. This is not like a classic competition when 60 or 70 pilots all follow the same route within 1 hour of each other, and you have one pilot every minute. So it is not a significant safety issue, but you are advised to be aware, if you are crossing one of these lines, to look at the direction from which pilots might be approaching and check carefully for that. So to use this example, this pilot here decided to take some turn points, did half of the snake task, and then flew home for breakfast. They might then, in the afternoon, come back out and immediately start this task here, having already sent me their declaration on my Google form link, which I will put onto the WhatsApp group. When you finish that, you can choose to jump straight into another task if you want to, or you can collect some turn points on the way and then do another task. And then collect some more turn points on your way home. So let's say this is 2 flights in one day. Let's put the other one in a different color. We will download your tracks and we will publish as soon as we can a set of scores, and that pilot will register a score in 3 of the precision navigation tasks. Number 4, I think that was. Yeah. Number 3 and number 2, and also a score in task 7, which will be the turn point hunt task. If they have done all that on day 1, as soon as you have completed one of these precision navigation routes, they are therefore closed to you for the rest of the championship. You have done them, you can only do them once. The others are still open. For a different pilot who did a different thing on the first day and just collected turn points, on day 2, these are still open for them to choose. So this is the essence of this championship format. A big additional element over classic format is the pilot strategic decision making over a period of days, looking at the weather forecast and making judgments as to which areas of the map will be the most effective and useful to go to on different days, depending on wind conditions, which tasks to do. It's also making judgments in the air. If you take off and you decide to fly down here to do this snake task in all of your planning for the day, but you quickly realize that there is a southerly wind that is much stronger and you're not going to get there, you would be sensible to rearrange your plan and go across here and do this one, which is crosswind mostly. So you make judgments in the air. Likewise, if you have planned to do a constant speed task, but you realize after you've taken off from your speed over the ground and your judgments that you are unlikely to be able to complete, for example, a continuous constant speed curve with more than 180-degree changes in direction, you can choose to do a different route. Which brings me, I think, to sort of an approximate timetable. So we will have the first briefing Tuesday night, at which I will give you your printed maps. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday flying time. And this is in fact, I will put it up there to make absolutely clear. Illustrative example timetable. This assumes ideal weather conditions all week. If we have flyable weather all 4 days, all day, then typically on the first day, I will give you a three-hour airtime window within a wider 5-hour flying window. And then I will ask pilots to return to the airfield by midday, and we will do the fueling exercises for an economy task in the afternoon. The next day, we might say you have the whole day. So over that, you might have 5 hours airtime for open navigation for a full day's flying. And you can fly off all day. You can, if we have, and I am still awaiting confirmation that we have an external option to do a landing outfield, you could fly off in the morning and land at an airfield on the other side of the map. But more likely you will do a flight in the morning, come home, or one or more flights, and another one or more flights in the afternoon, to a total of 5 hours over the course of the day. We will have at least one more economy task with only a morning of open navigation with an economy in the afternoon, and then hopefully another whole day of navigation flying. Assuming we have plenty of cross-country flying in the daytimes, we will bring pilots back, typically land by 6 p.m. to do local precision tasks on the airfield, which will be spot landing, bowling landing, and the stick-based precision tasks that are in the task catalogue at the airfield. And I will brief specifically circuit patterns and things for them, again, when you are on site on the first evening. This is, of course, subject to change when we see the latest weather really the night before. So what I will do each evening from 8 p.m. on the first evening briefing, every night after landing at 9 o'clock, I think we can fly legally with the light until about 9:20 on the first night, maybe 10 past 9, something like that. Andy's saying something, you're muted. Maybe it's even a bit later. Maybe it's 9:30. It's the longest day of the year.
Yeah, it's later. I'll check.
Yeah,
it's later.
So we will use as much of that daylight legal time. We can fly in the UK legally until 30 minutes after sunset. So we will use that. But if we need more time to balance out more navigation and the conditions in the daytime are horrible, we may move navigation into evening. And that might become something like that, or even something like that if we have a bad day's weather. Or we may move the economy task to the second day because we can see it's a much better day for it. But almost certainly, if it's flyable, we will do an economy task on the afternoon of the first day to make sure that we have that in the bank. And if it's not thermic, it will be the FAI triangle task. So I would assume that you will go flying for your first navigation in the morning on the first day and back for an economy task in the afternoon. Again, we may do that and that. But each evening I will publish my best estimate of a revision of this map based on what we anticipate doing over the next few days, so that you can replan your strategy as best you can with the weather. Andy, your hands up.
Yes, sunset is 9:13, 21:13 on Monday.
Okay. Yes, we can go even later, 10:15, but it drops off over the few days, doesn't it?
Yeah, later.
Yes, it's getting later till the weekend.
Yeah,
I think
as
I'm
we're closer
confusing
to-
with. I was looking at the August sunset times in the last conversation I had about that. That's why I'm confused. But we will again brief you on that. And if we know we have later weather, we might extend the window for navigation. Does that make sense? I think now would be an appropriate sort of breakout to question point on that format and the way the open navigation task system works. Are we all clear on what you are and aren't allowed to do in terms of how you go flying? Excellent. Right, where was I? This is, I've got some examples of that. These are, I will circulate this presentation, but these are worked examples. I think they're in the back of the task catalogue already of the numbers put into the scoring formulae. That's the timetable. That's leftover stuff. I will just check again. I had some questions from Thibaut earlier from the French team, which I may have already answered some of. Okay, scoring. The difference between interim, provisional, final, and official scores. In a classic competition, when we release a score sheet, it means the task is finished, closed. Everyone who wants to fly it has flown it, and that opens a window for making complaints. A complaint is not really a very useful word. It has too many negative connotations. It should be more like a query. If you have questions about how you have been scored, you can come to us and say, I thought I did turn point 2. Can you check, please, because you haven't scored me for it? Or I'm sure I did not hit that no-fly zone that you have given me a penalty for. And we will address them and we will respond. We will give you, in order to do that, there will be another Google form that you can put your complaints in, and we will work through the list in the order that we get them as rapidly as we can. When all complaints have been responded to, the task is made final. If you disagree with our response to your complaint, you have an option to protest, and that will go to a jury, which at international level is an international jury, and that is quite a large part of the costs of running an international championship, is that we are also flying over and housing and feeding additional officials from around the world to be that jury. At national championship level, it is made up of a panel of members who are semi-independent of us, and they will decide what you have proposed is how you feel that you should have been scored, and they will assess that against the official rules and make a decision, after which the scores become official. The difference with interim is, of course, under this format, we can't really, well, if we release provisional scores under technical FAI rules, it means that the task should be closed and the complaints window is open. In the past, because our scoring software is set up to only do that. We have, at national championship level, we have not worried too much about that, and we have just reopened the complaint window each time. But with FAI World Championship this summer, we have had to make sure that we have a very clear definition of how these work. So we have an additional release through our scoring system that says interim. Interim means that the complaints deadline has not yet been set, but day to day, at the end of a day's flying, we can release a set of interim scores so that you as pilots have a leaderboard and a sense of where you are in the competition. And also, just because we have not set a complaints deadline, it means the complaints to those who have scores can start making them so that we can get them out of the way and addressed as necessary as soon as possible. So that at the end of Wednesday, assuming we can get the scores that same day, you will have a set of Wednesday interim scores for each of the navigation tasks. Likewise, Thursday, Friday, at the end of the day on Saturday, the last round of scores will be released as provisional. And on the last day of the championship, I think it's a 6-hour window normally, but it's reduced to 3 hours on the final day, so that you can I'd have to check the exact numbers in the scoring sheet, but we will need the complaints more quickly on Saturday night so that we can resolve them and we can produce final scores for prize giving on the Sunday. Does that answer your question on that, Thibaut? I can't see you, but I will take that for a yes. Not sure yet, he said. Okay. It's a way of allowing us to release scores earlier without triggering official deadlines. So when a provisional score sheet is published, that indicates a task is closed and it will activate the final deadline for the task. Who decide what happens if a pilot didn't do the task yet while he waits for other windows? The task will not be released as provisional until Saturday night, or at least the open navigation tasks will not be. They will all be open as long as we anticipate continuing flying for the competition. The economy tasks, however, might be, well, are standalone. So we will do a pure economy on Wednesday afternoon, and as soon as we release the scores on Wednesday evening, that will come out immediately as provisional, and that task is finished and closed. You've asked me about the rules, section 10, 4.34.18 does not apply. Is that the rule about the number of pilots attempting tasks and devaluing them? Off the top of my head, yes, that does not apply under this format. If a failure in flight analysis or scoring is discovered before the end of the championship, and the failure is due to a technical error which comes from the equipment, this failure must be corrected regardless of time limits for complaints. I'll have to come back to you on that one. That's getting quite technical about equipment failure and things like that. I like to see pilots knowing the rules and double checking them. On that one, I will come back to you, sorry. You asked about precision navigation with estimated speed. If you make declarations, so on this one, before you take off, you make a declaration to me that says, on this flight, I'm going to do 50 seconds here, 100 seconds here, 200 seconds here. If you take off, you realize that it's very windy and none of your declarations will be correct. You choose not to fly that, you do something else, you land later, and you can resubmit your declaration form for another flight later on. You can submit as many resubmission of your declarations as you like. So we will simply take, as and when you fly the task, we will look up our spreadsheet from the Google form of the declarations you have submitted, and we will use the most recent one before that. Make of that what you will in terms of your strategy by going out for another flight, understanding what the wind is doing, coming back home, submitting a declaration. And you ask for an example scoring of that task. So in this example, you have 5 hidden gates. NH is 5. If you get all of them, you would get potentially 125 points just from passing the hidden gates. There are 3 timing gates in this example. So if you, regardless of what you have declared, 10 seconds late for one, 30 seconds early for the next, 4 seconds late for the next, the sum of your errors is 54. Your QE value, that's doubled, so that's 108. The maximum value from those 3 timing points is 100 per point. So your score for the timing element would be 300 minus 108, which would be 192. So for a task worth a total of 425 potential points, you would score 317 in this smaller example. As I said, I will distribute this file so you can work through these as well. Okay, let me double check my list for anything else that I may have missed. I haven't really talked that much about the site, other than I've talked about the kind of aerial issues of the site. Let's go back to Google Earth. A few other points of note. Obviously, I've mentioned that these are businesses and we have to respect very carefully their right to run their business without interference. So it might be that I will stop takeoffs, pause takeoffs temporarily if I know that one of their helicopters is needing to take off, and we reserve the right to do that. The advantage of these large windows, and we're deliberately setting your allowed airtime to be typically 60% of the maximum window open time that is available, to allow us to pause takeoffs as necessary, or to allow you time to brake propellers, fix things, not be rushed, not be stressed. The no-fly zone extends over this block of housing here, partly because polar helicopters will take off that way, partly because these buildings here are a refugee or immigrant, I think, illegal immigrant detention centre of some sort, and they're quite heavily guarded at the front, so they don't want people flying low over that. We will have on-site camping, normal campsite rules. I should not have to brief these. You leave the site as you found it. There will be a skip. Probably down here will be the sort of service area, and I appreciate it's a little bit of a walk, but the showers will be here because that's where our water point is. Our scoring office will be here. There will be a skip. Please throw your rubbish into the skip. We are not allowed bonfires on the grass. We are allowed barbecues if they're off the grass, I think is acceptable. You have the RAF History Museum here, who are our hosts. the owners of the airfield themselves, RSP, are our primary hosts, but they delegate management of all of these events to the History Museum. They have a cafe called the NAFI Cafe. Do go and visit that, and that is a good point that I need to make you aware of as well. I'm very sorry to say that as of this morning, we no longer have the caterer on site that we thought we were going to. We had arranged with an external caterer to provide cooked meals in the marquee for pilots to buy as they need to. They have basically dumped on us the decision that they think they will not make enough money and they are walking away. And there will be legal discussions ongoing between BHPA lawyers and them about their ability to do that. But the long and short of that is there is nothing we can do about it. So the announcement here is please prepare to either cater for yourselves as normal camping catering, but there are also some easy options. Last year we did not have a caterer and pilots managed perfectly well. The museum has a cafe which is open from I think 10 o'clock in the morning to not that late in the evening, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. There is a food van here called the Roundabout Kitchen, who we fed our marshals from mostly last year, and they will be offering a service, probably a pre-order service there. They do burgers and lasagna and chips and chicken and things like that. But there is also Ramsgate, and Deliveroo works from there. There are plenty of places that will deliver. There are supermarkets nearby and so on. So I'm very sorry for what has happened with the catering. But there is essentially at this stage nothing I can do about that. So I apologize for that. What else do we have? On the deck, takeoff is normally going to be free and open. The times it might not be would be in the evening precision landing tasks, particularly if we have changeable weather conditions, and when we have a championship order, we may insist on championship order takeoff so that pilots that are competing with each other are flying in common air. We will also have a system of flags, which I will confirm 100% next week when we're on site, and I can show them to you exactly which colour and designation means window open, window is closed, no flying. There will be an option for, well, probably not an option for free flying during the competition, because if there is time available and the weather is convenient for free flying, then we might as well be flying championship tasks. We also have something that we've introduced newly this year, which is a limit on the deck airspeed, at which point we will close the deck. And that is, I'm just going to double check this before I say the wrong number. I think 5 meters per second. Somebody else can probably correct me if they're already looking at it. Somebody else who's searching this.
7 meters per second, Barney.
7 meters per second. That was it for foot launch and 5 meters per second for trikes. Can you remember what section was that?
Oh, come on, that's a bit too hard.
It's in there somewhere. It's a long document. So if we have a open navigation window of 5 hours and the wind goes over that 7 meters per second, we will pause takeoffs until such time as it drops below it. Pilots that are on task and flying already, the window is still open, and they can make their own judgment as to at what point the wind is safe to fly in and land if necessary. If it's looking that changeable and potentially too high winds, we would more likely just not open the task window. But this rule has been put in because it removes the pressure on a championship director or directors to make decisions which could lead to putting pilots in danger under the pressure to finish a championship with more airtime and validation of tasks. So it takes that out of our hands. Please don't argue if the marshals, whatever flag we brief that says the window is closed for trikes or closed for foot launch. That is what it is. Absolute. We will look at the anemometer and we will reopen it when that wind speed is consistently below that value again. A few points about deck safety, which also I will reiterate these next week, but I'm going to mention them now here to make sure that everybody is aware of that. I can stop sharing now. We expect all propellers for foot launch to be running to only be run with engines on your back and with helmets on your heads. If you need help starting your engine on your back, ask for it. The marshals will help. There is a 20-meter separation zone from the campsite or any public areas, which will be clearly marked. If you want to run a propeller, you go to the deck side of the 20-meter separation zone before you run it. And we expect to see a very clear look around behind you, over your shoulders, and a loud yell of clear prop before you fire an engine up. We will be displeased if we see anybody doing that without very clear safety measures. Do not walk across the deck. These are normal, good airmanship, good practice of barrel motors, not walking across the deck with your engine running on your back, etc. There are some other procedures which I will, again, on the first briefing night when everybody is there, and I'm sure that everybody is hearing them, I will go through specific procedures for things like task cancellations and so on. Last thing to say as well, part of our scoring system, we are experimenting with more aspects of live scoring. So I have to thank Henny Brink from Gaggle. I don't know how many of you use the Gaggle software. We are working with him to develop an aspect of our scoring system to feed the Flymaster tracks directly into Gaggle and have some live element. And Jack, thank you to Jack as well, who's been working with him and will be on site managing that. Hi, Jack. So if anybody would like to be included in that, you can all be included, but if you would like your Flymaster tracks that we use with the Gaggle system we're testing, which is parallel to our primary scoring system, you need a Gaggle account, and we need to know what that account name is so that we can link the track to your account, and then you can have it on your record.
Yeah, Barney, just quickly, it's not the Gaggle account name, there are specific account settings that I need to know I can post that on WhatsApp.
Thanks, Jack. I'm suspecting is a trip on the way to Parafest. So just to be aware of that, Jack will send details if you want to be included. That's Gaggle, and that's thank you very much to Henny for all the work that he's put in on adapting his software to help us. I will also talk through on the first night the procedure for fueling for economy tasks, and we'll have a system of buddying up and checking each other's engines and so on. I think that concludes everything that I wanted to cover tonight. So unless my committee members or co-directors have anything else that they want to point out that I've missed, I will open the floor to questions. I must have been very thorough if we've got no questions. I can see there's quite a few been coming up in the chat that I've not been able to see, but thank you to my colleagues for fielding those. Is there anything else resolved in that? Unresolved, sorry. Yeah, power will be in the marquee, but we can't run it through the campsite this year. There will be water points as well up here. There'll be a water bowser that you can access. And then there'll be a bigger tap with the showers down there. Nothing else? Have I exhausted you all? It's getting late now. This is like teaching in COVID again. Any questions? Silence. No, well, never mind. In that case, oh, we got a question. Will it be visible how many points each task is worth? Yes, that is a good question. And the answer is yes, they will. On this map from last year, they've not put the points on it because they were all normalized to 1,000. But yes, this box on the map you are given will say, I'm sorry, you can't see that, can you? Because I'm not showing it. These descriptor boxes on the map will tell you how many points each task is worth as well. Yeah. So you can deduce from that if it says, in the case of this one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 timing points, and they're each worth 100. And this box says 800 points, then you will have 8 hidden gates somewhere along that list as well. So you can work out the ratios. What was the other question there? Visible, how much each worth? What if you accidentally cross a navigation start gate en route to a waypoint or another task? Will the scoring take a view whether it is valid attempt at the task or not? It's a good question, and it's one I have been asked before. I will take a task as started as having been more than one feature activated, more than one consecutive feature of that task activated. So you will have a start point, and at some point not far after the start point of a task, you will also have potentially a hidden gate. If you activate first the start point and then that hidden gate, I will consider that for you to have started that task. And even if you fly off elsewhere and do other things, that task is subsequently closed to you for the rest of the competition. So yes, keep well clear of start points for precision navigation routes if you have no intention of starting them. The pre-flying element you can just as easily do under this format if you want to waste the time by flying the same route half a kilometre to one side or the other if you really want to test fly it before you fly it, but all you're doing is burning fuel and time for not much advantage. After exiting a task prematurely to give up on the rest of it, is it possible to go and collect waypoints and attempt another task without having to land and take off again? Yes. You can decide this is a bad idea to stay in this task. I'm wasting time sitting in an upwind parked, but I can still carry on doing a much more useful crosswind turn point collection or something if I leave this task and go and do something else.
Barney, hello. You said earlier that if you left a task to collect a waypoint and then came back to the task, that way, or that turning point, sorry, wouldn't be valid. So with what you've just said here, if we leave a task and then go off and collect turning points, are those turning points valid?
They are valid so long as you do not rejoin the precision task that you were previously on.
Roger, thank you.
So you commit to leaving it and you stay left.
Yeah.
Don't think there's anything else unresolved, or is there? So we've got backup loggers with screens, anything that will give you ground speed, correct. No, I do not want anything that will give you ground speed. Tivo, you said show when the time is considered. Have I, the software calculates, I think, yeah, we've had the answer on that. It's all done by the software and the automation of the track from the nearest point, or the crossing of the line if it is a gate, or the nearest point to the feature if it is a turn point. That's why for the time in the air, I will always use long gates over a very clear feature. So when you cross it to within a second or two, when you start your stopwatch, you can get a very accurate point. Whereas when it's a turn point and it's your nearest point to a finite point, it's a bit harder to judge. A fuel depot this year. The fuel depot that I'm still waiting for final confirmation that they will have us on these days and there aren't other things going on, I can tell you, is this airfield here. Let me make that different color. It's called Pent Farm. Put that in the chat. And he has said that in principle we can use it. We will only use it if we have the weather to have a full day flying when 0700 to 1800 is open for navigation. And we also need to confirm a bit about transport of fuel down there and whether he can store it and so on. So the negotiations are still open. But if that is the case that we use it, then it will be briefed which day that will be on the first briefing, which day that we anticipate using it, so that you can make plans accordingly. But yes, you could then use that to fly down here, refuel there, and then fly back. But it will only be on one of the days, if we do it, that will be available because of the logistics. But if you would like to use that, bring enough spare fuel tanks to be able to leave a full tank's worth of fuel at that airfield waiting for you. Ross, you offered to bring a barbecue. If you've got a big one, by all means, please do share around. I've been taken a little bit by surprise on this news about the food, and I've been in meetings all day and not had a lot of time to strategize around it. Thank you to Simon for already picking up with the food vans and have confirmed that they will sort our marshals as well.
No problems. I'll bring the barbecue.
You got a big one.
From North London, and if anybody wants to use it, you're more than welcome to. It's not going to be a big one, but open to everybody.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm sure we can cover your costs if it's a gas one or anything like that. We can help with that.
I'm sure we can toddle up to the local B&Q and get another barbecue gas bottle if we need to.
Cool. So yeah, we'll all muck in and help as we can. Any more questions? Done and dusted in 2 hours. The advantage of doing this now is that that's 2 hours less time we need to spend going through all this before I give you the maps, and 2 hours earlier that you can get to sleep on Tuesday night. So infrastructure is arriving on Monday. We've said you can arrive at the airfield from Monday because we won't have much there for you before that, and we also want to limit the amount of noise and nuisance to neighbours. When you arrive on Monday, we'll direct you to where to set up. Please do not just walk out and go flying as soon as you've got out the car and you're itching to fly. Nobody flies until they have seen us and made their registration and their presence known. After which, if you're arriving on Monday, you can fly on Monday evening with respect to certain rules that we'll put in terms of local no-fly zones and things, and we will give you a map for that.
I assume Tuesday we can fly as well. Is that correct?
Daytime, yes.
Yeah, daytime.
Yeah. And then first briefing will be 8 p.m. to allow people that need to leave work at lunchtime or whatever to get there. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.